That's why I wanted to comment, because that's very key here. Because if you look at it, it would seem as if over the last 20 years now, before today, the NESG has touched on different sectors. Even in education. I recall when we were here in the same hall last year, we talked about education. And now it is appalling to note that when we marked the World Teachers' Day, we realized that all of the issues highlighted right in the same hall last year have even gone worse than they were last year. It would seem as if in the policy thrust of implementing some of these things that come out of this discussion, government and even private sectors haven't actually taken heed to some of them. And I also recall that we talked about agriculture. So taking from where Malcolm left off, you know, beautiful talks, you know, ideas are put on the table. I know you just said that we can't force them, but we should start thinking of how we can, in a subtle way, you want to call it subtle force, put these things to save the nation and the future.
Well, again, this is where, again, we believe that our engagement should go beyond only the executive. We should get involved with the legislature. And that's part of the things we have in this year's summit. We want to engage them, get them involved. Because, again, they have an oversight function. But we want to enrich their oversight by providing the resources that is available from the private sector to them. The intention is not to allow confrontation, but that they all know. But you realize that there's a lot that we all can do if we all pull together. We wish that the level of implementation is a lot better than what we have. We wish that ministers and all the agencies take it as seriously as they should take it, and there's engagement beyond the summit.
You know, you talked about ministers. They're not on board yet. How is that going to affect anything?
Look, you see, there are people working. Ministers will come and they will go. We will engage them after this conference, and we'll believe that as they come in, they too will require all the support. So all the things we'll do here, all the things we've done before now, we're ready to make them available to them so that they can hit the ground running. You know.
In terms of the policy direction, I mean, yes, there'll be lots of robust discussions that will go on here today and until it ends later in the week. One wonders, there are those who are of the opinion that, wait a minute, wouldn't there be some sort of hesitation on the part of those who will head different ministries? Can they, say, if a permanent secretary appears, can they make those kind of policy statements and give those kind of commitments as a minister would?
Well, you see, that's one of the things we shared with the vice president when we had a meeting. Nations don't rule on a short-term basis. Nations are governed by having a longer-term view. This country must have a long-term view of where we are going, regardless of who is managing the day-to-day operations. It shouldn't be too easy for anybody to come and say, this is where I want to go. And the direction to go is very clear. We are at tough times. There are tough choices to be made. And so it should not be left to the whims and caprices of whoever is there today. I do agree, the ministers are there. But what we're doing is to say, no, this is where Nigeria should be going. And I think they will listen to us.
Yeah, I just wondering though, because you said you had measured the impact in yourself, that over the years it would seem that eventually some of this was adopted. We do not have the luxury of time on this one, do we? Because, I mean, you're organizing this for a specific reason, some of the tough choices that we must make. If government decides, because some of those choices might not necessarily be popular, do you see the private sector being able to play a role to support some of government's tough decisions?
I think this is a responsibility that is beyond the NESG itself. And that's where I always tell people, the gentlemen of the press who have a responsibility, all of us will come to you. We all need to tell them these are the things we need to be doing. I think we're not doing enough of that, enough of putting all the issues at the table, enough of letting people realize.
You think that's the job of the press?
All of us together, I say all of us. The press, the private sector, all of us together. It's our nation.
That's the inclusion policy, stretching it.
Yeah, it's our nation. And I tell people, even the press are members of the NESG. The civil societies are members of the NESG. So all of us should come together and say, this is where Nigeria should be going. It's our nation. And that's why each time I say, oh, NESG, you have not done. I said, who is NESG? We're just a platform, a rallying point for the private sector, for the civil society, even for the government.
Because
so everyone can meet and discuss.
Some people think that, you know, for instance, if government were to come up with a policy today that could be deemed tough, or we have not exactly seen a policy in the past where we would see the government, you know, releases a particular policy, and then you see, say, the NESG, for instance, say we endorse, or we say this is the way to go. Do you think that the platform can get to that extent where you begin to say, we think government is in the right direction on this one, as a show of support and perhaps a way of also educating the public that maybe this is where we actually need to be going?
I think we've done it in the past, and we will do it if it's, yeah, we've done it in the past. I recall that the issue of deregulation of oil, NESG had not held back. We've always told people that this is not the way to go. This is hurting us as a nation. I mean, and whether it is popular or not, we've stuck by it. And the amount of money we spend as a nation, it shouldn't be. So we will do that.
So you still see yourself, you know, maybe running an advocacy of some sort?
We are an advocacy group. That's what we are. And that's what we'll continue to do. And what we're trying to say is that, look, we're going to provide the research to back it up, so it's not just they are saying it. You will see the evidence, and you see the need for you to adopt it.
The plenary one, where there will be presidential policy dialogue, looking at your program now, which will go, this is expected to hold today.
That's right.
Then you talk about tackling corruption, insecurity, and economic competitiveness. Is this where the government will talk about their policy directive, or where we're going? Because you hear, I'm sure you may have heard those who are saying, look, we need a clear direction in terms of where we're going economically in this country.
You know, the policy dialogue is always a forum for the president to address the nation, talk to the people, and tell them exactly they're thinking about what is the direction, right? And it affords them the opportunity to interact with the general public, and because questions will be asked. And so more clarity is given to the focus of government at that dialogue session.
So where will the manufacturing, they're also part of this? They will participate in some way?
They are part of it. If you look at, we have dialogue sessions, we have 10 breakout sessions, and they will be looking at ranging from manufacturing to transportation to education. Those breakout sessions deal with all of those. There are 10 of them.
What if you were to prioritize, say, some of the tough areas that we're looking at? How would you arrange them?
And I wish I can take one and say this is one. But the fact of it is that there are a lot of them. And first, the fact of it is currently now we need to do something about how do we rein in inflow of funds. We need to block the deficit. And secondly, we look at the medium to long term. What we're telling people that there are not very simple, straight choices to be made.
I still think that a lot needs to be done on the side of implementation, because if for 20 years we have NESG talking and we had listened and heeded to what NESG has been saying, when the oil drops to zero, I don't think Nigeria would have had any problems if we had done that.
I agree with you. The issue of fiscal rules and ensuring that we save for the rainy day had all been there. The issue of ensuring that we have proper governance over even what is saved, we've talked about it. The issue of concession and allowing private sector to get involved in infrastructure and all of these issues on ground. So proper implementation, it's what we need. I agree with people that say we're tired of talking. But I tell people, let's even talk rather than war. But much more important, let's do it. Let's start doing even the things that we know. The fact of it is that we talk a lot and we do less. I agree with you there. Implementation is a key problem.
Some people also ask, is the private sector in this altruistically by itself?
The first thing I let people to know is that the private sector is out to make profit. It's there. But nobody wants to make profit for a short time. They want to make it sustainably. So if there's anybody who is looking at short time, in the long run, you're gone. So I think they want to look at it sustainably. And for it to be sustainable, They knew that the environment should be right. They knew that the institution should be right. And that's why the private sector is in there. But nobody is in business to make losses. But you want to do it on a sustaining basis, which is why they are partners to ensure we build a sustainable Nigeria.
You know, I see a lot of governors, they're going to participate in this one. I also see where you talk about creating and sustaining Nigeria's competitive advantage, which many will suggest that speaks directly to the fact that we need to take implementation more seriously. Because if we haven't created our competitive advantage 20 years on, big question mark. But does it just restrict itself to economic issues only? Some will wonder, what about a little bit of politics? Because if our federalism is reviewed and states are allowed access to certain resources, states will grow, they're not sure they'll be going cap in hand to the center asking for funds to pay salaries, as basic as salaries.
Well, again, you cannot divorce economics from politics, because they go together. We are political economic beings. But what is important is that even as you run politics, you must run it on a sustainable basis. So our interaction with the state government is to look at what do we do as a state amongst ourselves. If you look at that, we've invited all the 6 state governments, but we're going to run 6 parallel sessions looking at the South, South, Northeast. We call it regional economic goalposts. There's a lot that even they can do amongst themselves. So how can they make the ease of doing, what do we address the issue of ease of doing business so that people can begin to come? That's where we have the tough majority of the people. We need to drill down inclusiveness to that level. So our discussion with them is to look at, so this is what investors are talking to us. What are you doing? How can you work across the states? I mean, one state have agri, one state have industrialization opportunities. How can we cooperate amongst ourselves? You know, that's what we want to see, so that we can sell that whoever is coming to us, and we can say, go to this zone, this thing works, and they have it to show for it. So that's what we're intending to do at this summit.
Right.
But it doesn't stop at the summit. It's a continuing dialogue with them.
And the president will be here today?
We hope so.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Mr. Alaye Jayola is the CEO of Nigeria Economic Summit Group. All the best for the session.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back in a moment. We have other matters coming up in a minute, so please join us again.